Let
And
me
Miss
make a note.
Brockwell,
Yes.
one more thing. Carter is saying that she's trying to log in, but she's having reception issues.
And it's storming. So I will send, when we record this, I will try to send it out too. Okay. Cause I do know in our letters training, I know that Miss Packer was having some trouble and with weather and everything going around. So I will make
Yes,
sure that I give you multiple ways to view this. Okay. So thank you
yes.
for letting me know.
Yep.
Okay. So I do want to tell you that we have a couple of celebrations. First of all, guys, we are our kindergarten teachers. All of our kindergarten teachers, wave your hands like you just don't care because y'all are done with Alec Kids. Like, man, that was crazy. That was crazy town. But also, Bessemer City hit 95% at for completion for our beginning of the year assessment with M-Class. So we're done. We're done. We're done. It's only almost November, but we're done. So great job for all the efforts in that area. And I just wanted to tell you because that takes a lot. I know it does. So I just want to see real quick because I don't see that it's recording, and I told them I was going to have it recording. So okay, it seems like it is. I'm sorry. Okay. And another thing I want to say is a lot of people have been on the wait list. I know Miss Hinton from Hard Elementary in particular has reached out to me, and I definitely want to tell you I have been looking into it and asking. It's not at all that I haven't, and I haven't got a whole lot of responses, but I did find out yesterday evening how come I wasn't getting a response. And that is that the money that the legislature had allotted us for letters training is all dried up. But they are, the state has gone back and they have hundreds. They literally have, I think it's over 300 right now who are on a waiting list. So they've asked, obviously, the state if they would allot more money for that. And our full support schools get first priority. So because that is part of the Literacy Act to be trained in the science of reading, and the state has chosen letters. I did want you to know that the money, it's not there yet, but that is they are still working on that. So I don't know when that will be. For those of you that are kind of, I know that it is anxious, trying to go through these and not have the materials and all that stuff. So for that, I do sincerely apologize. Miss Hinton, I don't know who else at your school doesn't or who's on the waiting list. Do you know?
I
I'm
think
on
it's
the wait
all,
list.
I think
Clarissa
it's Miss
Boone.
Boone, Miss Lenz, and Miss third grade. Hold on, I just lost.
Miss
I don't know.
Barrett.
You want me? Yes, Miss Barrett. I'm sorry, Miss Barrett. And I'm not sure. I know those guys, but Miss
Okay,
Boone,
so
Miss
what I'm
Lenz,
going to
Miss
do
Barrett.
is, would it make it easier if I photocopy the sessions for you guys, so you at least have the sessions to like go through and read? Would that make it easier for you?
I think so. I really don't have a reference to know what
Right.
that
I know
means.
you wouldn't be able to do the online portion, but when it got to when you did get your login, you could skip the reading part because you'd have that part done, and you'd only have to do the online, and you would only have to do the assessments for each
I
unit.
just have to like enter it in at that point.
Right. So it would
Okay,
just
yeah,
kinda
that
help
would
you.
probably be best.
Okay. So I'm going to start doing that, and I will get you caught up. I will give you all 5 sessions right now, but then after that, I'll give you like a session a week so I don't freak you out. Does that sound fair?
Sounds great.
Okay. All right. And then over Thanksgiving and Christmas, I will give you several. You don't have to do it for me. I just know sometimes that's our one time that we can get stuff done. But if you have family or other things, please, please, please do that. Okay. I just want to give you options. All right.
Okay.
All right. Let's go ahead and get started so we can get through this. So we are in session 5, and session 5 is it is all about how students learn how to read and spell. And we know that reading and spelling absolutely go hand in hand, but we do also know that some students aren't good spellers, and that doesn't necessarily always correlate, but it does go hand in hand with the learning and the development. So Many studies verify that each phase of the reading development, and it says deliberately teaching the non-negotiables, the skills necessary to be a good reader. And I stopped right there in mid-sentence and I was like, what do you believe those skills are? What do you believe the non-negotiables are? What are some of the things you think that includes? You can go ahead and come off mute.
Well, it has to be the word recognition and language, because that's part of the that formula. Word
Absolutely.
recognition.
So that you're talking about the simple view of reading formula.
Yes, that simple view of reading formula.
That's absolutely right. And when we learned more about the simple view of reading, that how the oral language and the word recognition comes on, I think it was Miss Watson. Miss Watson, were you the one that did when for this morning for letters? What model did you draw?
What is the rope, the
Scarborough's reading rope. That's right. So if you think about all of those skills, those are the non-negotiables that it's talking about that are necessary for students to become good readers. So I know that some people think, oh, it's just the five parts of literacy. And I'm like, I mean, overarching, yes, but specific areas are that if you look at Scarborough's reading rope, that's where you'll find that. So it does tell us that for students just learning to read, the ability to decode and read the words accurately is of paramount importance. I'm going to read that again. And I probably should bold that because I'm pretty sure that was on a quiz. I'm not positive, but I'll look it up. But it says for students just learning to read, the ability to decode and read the words accurately is of paramount importance. So it's not talking about students who don't know their letters or sounds yet, but it's talking about when they're first learning to read. Just that ability to decode and read the words accurately is the greatest importance. However, by fourth grade, learning becomes reading to learn. And I think that's kind of late. Typically, I always say that's kind of second or third grade. And later on in letters, it tells us that by the end of second and third grade, we really want to kind of get them over to that. So the foundational skills of word recognition is that phonology, letter, I shouldn't have a comma there, I'm sorry, letter naming, phonics, and word attack. And these should be priorities for reading assessment and instruction in the early development. But you know what? We're so fortunate that we're using DIBELS MClass because it's already there. We already assess for those in those areas. So that's awesome. But then it wants us to look at the vocabulary, background knowledge, and then other aspects of language comprehension. Okay, let's see. All right, so we're going to be learning, and this is what it's our bridge to practice has to do with. So I'm going to give you just a moment to look over the Aries phases of word reading development. So go ahead and look these over real quick. I'm going to give you a second to look it over again while I put that. Oh, whoops. Hang on. I wasn't supposed to stop. I'm going to put in the chat box the sign in one more time for the people that are just coming in.
went out again.
Okay. So looking at this, we definitely see the progression of that pre-alphabetic all the way to the consolidated. And that's something that, as we have kids who come in and they're testing really low and it tells us that they're, either red or yellow in those little bands of proficiency. This is where we want to kind of see and identify, especially with those 3 students that we've chosen as our case study students. We really want to look at where they are in this. Are they Are they all the way back at pre-alphabetic? Do they just kind of, do they not really make sense of letters and sounds are used to put together and they go together to make language in the written form? Or are they, you know, later alphabetic where they start, you know, they're able to kind of identify those sight words. And when I say sight words, it's not always just those red words, but kind of those high frequency words, because the red words, those are words that don't follow the rules. However, you know, they might start, you know, reading words like cat and dog. Those are still high frequency, those CVC kind of words, those kind of things, but they're usually the regular and not the irregular formed words. So I don't want us to always think that those are red words necessarily. And they're starting to put in that later alphabetic, they might be starting to put the phonemes and graphemes that they have a correspondence that, like when I see D, that's always going to make the D sound. And in English, that's to say always going to make that's not always the case, right? With a lot of our letters, but and are they able to so it's segmented out that on the very bottom portion, that's what they should be able to do with their phonological awareness. So that was something that when I was in the letters training this morning with kinder and first, I was like, that's where I want to draw your attention, and to second and third, well, second's in their training right now, sorry. So third grade, at the very top of our lesson plans, I have a phonological awareness warm up. And this is, I think where I believe it was Mr. Davis had a question about, are we using the curriculum guide for Phonics First or what? Because we're trying to also embed some of this training that we're getting from letters, because as we know, usually programs don't have there, you know, we have to supplement them a little, right? There's no one program. Like if we look at Reading Street, we know that their phonics is lacking. That's why we went to Phonics First. Well, if we look at Phonics First, their comprehension would be lacking. So that's why we're using Reading Street. So it's kind of the same thing. So Phonics First does encourage and have some phonological awareness activities at the very, you know, onset of the lessons. However, it doesn't go very deeply into that. It might have a few rhymes, it might have, but it's not as systematic as their phonics program. So that's where we're using, and he's cited in letters, but this book, oh, did you like my little Southern accent that came out there? This book. This book is something that it's called Equipped for Reading Success. Can you guys see that okay, kind of ish? But that's where I get that from. That's what is cited in letters when I say the page number there. It is from letters, but that's where we're trying to give that kind of knowledge so that we can, once we have a strong foundation in that, it's supposed to build the foundation for our reading success for later. All right. So I'm going to have us, oops, sorry. All right, so this is very busy screen. So I'm going to give you a second to read this out to yourself, and then I'm going to ask some questions that go with it. Okay, so take a moment. Can you see the screen? Okay, give me a thumbs up if you see the screen. Thank you, Miss Eldridge. Thank you, Miss Cassidy. I saw you guys. Okay, go ahead and take a look, and we'll have a conversation in just a moment. Thank you, Miss Barrett. All right, so we're going to kind of look at this pre-alphabetic phase first. And that's where we really have that. There's really no letter to sound awareness. They might have, they might be able to say their ABCs, but to actually identify, the letter B, the letter C, the letter F, those kind of things. And then knowing the sound that it makes is usually not there. They're definitely heavily reliant on guessing when they're reading. And it says that they're dependent on context. They have few words and their errors and confusions, and they can't really read text. I mean, those are just non-readers, and that makes sense because they're at the pre-alphabetic phase.
Yeah.
And then when we look at their spelling, they might string letters together, and it assigns meaning without representing sounds. What that means is, like if they're saying cat, if they're trying to write a sentence about a cat, there could or there might or might not really be a C or a T or anything in there. They just know that, well, this is sort of what it's supposed to look like. And it looks more like they're drawing their letters than it looks like they're writing. And what I mean by that is it might be squiggles, it might be lines, and there might be some kind of form of a letter, but it's, when they, I can think of like, somebody brought this up earlier, the letter G, when they really draw a G, it just looks really odd and it looks like it's kind of laying down. And then also the number 4, if you ever see a kid drawing the number 4, you know what I mean versus writing it. It's very different than writing the number 4. But anyway, so those are our kids that honestly, the reason why our kids are like that typically are because they don't have as much access to books at home. They're not being read aloud to on a regular basis. And they probably have had little or no alphabetic instruction, okay, about, they might have sang the ABCs, but as far as this is the letter A and those kind of things. So they really need a lot of repetition, which is great with our phonics first because they are going to get that. And then we go into the early alphabetic phase, right? And that's where we start seeing that there are some use of letter sound correspondence. Typically we see that in the initial sound spot. And then they start, writing letters that actually represent letters. And it says they represent a few salient sounds, such as the beginning and ending consonants. And then they kind of fill in the others with those random letters because they know that, letters together make a word, but they really don't understand that, words need to have vowels and all of those good things. So there's definitely some things missing. So I'm going to give you a chance. So now for the later alphabetic phase, somebody explain to me some of the things that we would see in the later alphabetic phase. What that would look like in the class.
Blending drills, like quick blending drills, like we do on the blending board.
Yes, blending boards. So yes, so they would start being able to segment words and blend words. So that's a perfect example with them being able to do it on the blending board. But and we won't hope that they're applying that in their reading. So they start being able to, it says the pronunciation of whole words on the basis of the complete phoneme graphing mapping. So that's what she's talking about, segmenting and blending the blending truly, but the pronunciation of the word. So they're able to look at it and they're able to do it more quickly, more rapidly, right? Good job. Now, go ahead.
And I would also say that the arm tap activity, it's also useful when they're saying the sounds and when they blend the word.
Absolutely. So are you liking that red word routine?
Trying to.
Right. I know it's different. It's very different to get used to, but
Yeah.
after you start seeing the movements and you start seeing, I know I was in a classroom last week demonstrating a lesson, and I was literally holding the word up so the kids could see it, and I was tapping and they were still saying the wrong letters. And I was
Yeah.
like, no, okay, in this order from left to right, and so that's one of those things that to make it automatic, it takes a lot more practice.
It does.
I also want talking about the alphabetic phase, and I know I haven't got to 3rd grade yet. That's in the works, okay? But I I know that I did at one campus, I did a third grade lesson, and then I've done it in second and in first. But whenever I would have them do the ABCs in 2 minutes, for some of you guys that saw that, that I was in first or second and I did the ABCs, I know Miss Bolden and there were some others. Could you tell what we saw in those 2 minutes?
You talking about just the red word part or the whole lesson?
No, when I did it was actually when I was in your class and we did the alphabetic principle practice where I had them write their ABCs in 2 minutes. Can you tell what you saw?
I noticed like a lot of my kids couldn't write them without looking up at the alphabet that I have posted in the classroom.
And tell everybody what grade you're in.
Second.
Second grade. So the assumption typically in second grade, Miss Bolden, is what? What do we assume second graders know?
Their alphabet.
They should know the alphabets by now.
Yeah.
I know. That's what we say. Well, they should have learned this by now. And it's not that they didn't learn it. And it's not that they knew exactly where to look to get it, but it tells us that it's not automatic. And if it's not automatic, then they don't have the head space, the brain space to make word reading automatic. Okay. And that's why we see the fluency levels so low. So, now this is open for anybody, whether I was in your class or not, and whether you saw us do the alphabetic principle practice. But if our this is the question, if our students are not able to write their ABCs in 2 minutes with or without visual cues of the alphabet in front of them, what teaching implication does that tell us what does that tell us we need to do or we need to have?
Reviewing the alphabet.
We still need to have, it wouldn't be like what we're going to do for first grade, but do you see with our phonics first, we still have those letters. So we need to make sure that we have all the letters in the alphabet that we can still do our flashing. Now, please don't think that we need all those letters in the same lesson, because that's going to get to be like 50 some letters at some point, and that's going to take forever. You can absolutely split your decks. Okay. But we still need to have regular practice with those letters. We also, if you don't have your alphabet strip up in your room, that's definitely a visual cue that many of our students really do still need, even if we are beyond second grade and third grade, because I know we think that, hey, this is something they should know. And they, again, just like our students who were in this pre-alphabetic, and they might be able to say the ABCs, but remember they actually couldn't really identify the ABCs or give us sounds. Well, even if they can't get to hear if they don't have that automaticity of their ABCs in uppercase and lowercase letters, because, and the reason why it's important in both is because obviously in the written form, when they're reading, they're going to see both. So it needs to be automatic in both uppercase and lowercase. You can start with uppercase or you can start with lowercase. You can go back and forth. They don't have to master one before you're doing another. There's really it's just practice, and it's literally 2 minutes. So it's not something that's going to take a lot of time away from instruction, but it is something until we get it more automatic that does need to be practiced. And they can do that with a sheet of paper. It doesn't have to be with a particular, you don't have to make copies. It could be with an app, just lined paper or even plain. All right. And then of course our goal is to get them to that consolidated alphabetic phase. And that's really where they're able to read those multisyllabic words. They're able to see word parts as far and whole words. They're able to see syllable parts. And when I say that, I mean like they're also able to, like with blends like IGH, they're able to see that and be like, oh, like that says I, instead of like where you start getting that like they know better than to sound all of those out. They know that comes together as a part of a word. And that's something that really does set them up for that fluent reading and comprehension, because that obviously is our goal when we're teaching reading. All right, so here are some examples of the phases we just talked about. And here are kind of the, so typically when I bold things, we say it's either for headings or it's things that are in the quizzes. But in this case, I bolded what it looks like for their phonological abilities at this level. So I did want to tell you that that doesn't mean that all of those bolded parts are, they're not all on a quiz. It's just that that's how I separated. The first part is about what we would see with their writing and their reading. And the second part is what we would see with their spelling. So just so you could kind of see the difference there. But again, that pre-alphabetic we just talked about, it could be lines all over. It doesn't have any rhyme or reason. And we said that the reason why is because they didn't have as much access to books. And they have little to no knowledge of letters and sounds. And I have 2 ofs. Man, I have a lot of typos in here. I'm going to have to fix before I send this out. Let me write that. Sorry about that. And then the early alphabetic phase, again, that was, they have that concept of letters and they have most of the sounds. They might not have all of them. And some of our kindergartners are there. If they have like 20, they have 20 letters and 13 sounds, then they would be that early alphabetic. They do know that there is a letter to, or phoneme to grapheme correspondence or letter to sound correspondence. They just don't know the whole code yet. So they would be in that early alphabetic phase. But this is also where at the top of our lesson plans where I have that phonological awareness activity, it says that they're able to complete basic phonological awareness tasks such as identifying syllables and onset and rhyme. Okay, so that's important to know. And the reason why it's important to know is because even if you're teaching, if you have these case study kids, and I'm a 3rd grade teacher, I'm going to tell you, I have a 2nd grade student that either me or their classroom teacher is going to be doing on this. And we have a 2nd grade student who we would probably start back here. So that's why I want you guys to all see this part, is that for your case study students, if they're typically your lower students, even if you teach an older grade, you might need to look at what they should be able to do in this stage to get them to the next. Okay. So before I would be doing that segmenting and blending, or before they could do the segmenting and blending on the blending board, I would really need it to be all phonological awareness, and it would all be, they would be identifying the syllables. And I could even go as far back as compound words before I did word parts, if they really struggled. That later alphabetic, that is typically our 1st grade, kind of 2nd grade students, but they write fairly complete, reasonable, and phonetic spelling. So this is where, if you've heard it's phonetically correct, or, but they have a beginning, middle, and end, and most of all of the sounds are really represented in their writing. They might have for shell, they might put SHEL. They might not know it's a double consonant at the end, but they have all the sounds in place. But those are things that, like they would be in this later alphabetic. And here students should be able to segment and blend sounds. They should be able to do that orally, but they really should also, because they're able to phonetically write, they should also be able to read that on the blending board as well. And then of course, that's not what I meant to do. I'm sorry. The consolidated alphabetic principle is the students really are using syllable patterns, using blends and digraphs. That's where I was talking about that IGH. They would know that says I in their writing as well as in their reading. They would be very automatic with high frequency words. And again, it's not just our red words. They would be with regular and irregular words. And then this is where they should be able to substitute, delete, and reverse sounds orally. And that's where it gets really, really tricky, asking kids to substitute, delete, and reverse sounds. And we're not there yet on anybody's level of phonological awareness activities, but definitely my 3rd grade students will be hitting that, I believe, at the first part of December. All right, so changes in the reading brain. So, and I didn't mark the page on this. It is in your book. Let me see. It is on page with the brain, page 50. So on page 50 of the book, it says that, you know, our brains absolutely work differently. And a couple of sessions ago, we talked about all of the processors in our brain. We have 4 processors: the phonological, the orthographic, the meaning, and the context. And we learned from, I can't remember which teacher had told us, given us an example of her writing lesson, but in her writing lesson, she was able to get all 4 processors working to finish that assignment. And that's always the goal. Remember, if we're doing the dictation in our Phonics First, we're hitting 2 of them because we're hitting that phonological awareness processor as well as the orthographic processor. And that's still good because we're giving that brain a workout. And that's what we want to see. But it says that after 2 months, okay. Oh, sorry, I didn't finish this part. Sorry. If they're not, if all of those parts, those 4 parts aren't like very developed in a student, they're not even going to be able to decode or read nonsense words or CVC words. And you would see in the picture on page 50, it has hardly any like blue areas, meaning like areas that the brain is activated and working and communicating. So it's very small little areas, and the areas that are activated, it's very small, okay? But it says after 2 months of instruction in phoneme grapheme correspondence, the children's brain activation patterns are normalized and developing all processors. So I want us to think about that because you guys are all unpacking this Phonics First stuff too. And I want you guys to tell me in Phonics First, what are some things in our instructional practices that are really explicitly teaching phoneme grapheme correspondence?
I think when they do the dictation of the words, when they hear it, when the teacher says the word, and then they pound it out.
Dictation is huge. Yes, you're definitely getting that. What else in Phonics First is hitting that? There's 2 more areas at least.
What about the blending?
That's one of them. So when we're on the blending board, they have to absolutely know that each phoneme has a grapheme that's associated with it for them to make the sounds and for them to blend the word. That's one of the things. What else are we doing a phoneme grapheme correspondence with?
It's just the visual drill, isn't it? When they just name the sound.
The sounds, right? Yeah. When we're just flashing the cards and they're saying, you know, like, I know like what kindergarten is like, ah, ah, d. That's like the only letters that they've got. Wait, what did you guys introduce this week? We had A, O, or O, A, D. What comes after D?
G.
C.
Oh, C. G and C. Okay. So like those would be the, but if they can say the k, g, d, ah, ah, like that's where they're also, it's firing in their brain. Notice they're not even having to write it. It's just saying that they know that every sound has a letter associated with it. They realize that when they see the cards, they realize that on the blending board, and they absolutely have to apply it in applied learning for their dictation. Now, it's still, I'm going to say the red word routine still hits this. However, it teaches our kids that not all of the letters, you know, play by the rules, right? Because that's why they're red words. We have to kind of know those by heart. Then it says, after 2 months of systematic instruction in how to match graphemes and phonemes, these students' brain established pathways in the middle left hemisphere, enabling them to move into later alphabetic reading and automatic recognition of more whole words. So that is the absolute goal. And notice it doesn't say after 6 months. It doesn't say after 9 months, because that's how long we're in school. It says after 2 months. So if we think right now, we just finished our beginning of the year assessments, right? And we've been doing Phonics First since October 5th-ish, right? So we're almost 1 month in. And if we can get to like the second week of December, we should have some kids that are really starting to pick up on this routine and pick up on this process and really start going with it. Okay. So that's what you're kind of looking at for your Bridge to Study friends, is really by that second week of December, are we where they should be? You know, like based on where they started, are they making gains to get to that automatic recognition of more whole words? Okay.
Mhm.
Now, this is a big misconception that I definitely wanted to cover, because it is on some of the assessments. It says, while many teachers may believe poor comprehension is the primary issue for poor readers, the majority of those students have underdeveloped skills in advanced phonemic awareness, which is that substitution, deletion, and reversal in automatic word recognition. Okay. So I know that when I was a school-based reading coach, a lot of times when we come to PST, they'd be like, oh my gosh, their comprehension's terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible. And then I'd be like, okay, so we're over here writing up comprehension. We'll work on main idea with 2 details. We'll work on cause and effect. We'll work on this. And, they're working the plan, and they're like, they're still so terrible. Like they're not making any gains. And then when we would drill down deeper, we really found that, it's a fluency issue. And when we drilled down even deeper, we found out like, it is that phonological awareness, that phonemic awareness. And typically after first grade, a lot of teachers kind of assume, like we did with the letters, with writing the ABCs, we're like, they already know this. They already done that. That's kindergarten, first grade. We don't keep doing it. And so we don't have those in our plans. And that's why we're being very intentional. This is how we're helping what we're learning with our letters learning, and we're bringing it to our phonics first instruction. That's where we're bringing in those the phonemic awareness exercises, where it's all those words that are at the very top of your lesson plan that have parts of them are in parentheses. And that's because we're working right now. Everybody's working on deletion right now. That's not true. Mr. Davis, are you 3rd grade?
Yes,
Are we on substitution in 3rd grade yet?
we're still on deletion.
Okay. Because I'm so sorry. I've made like 26 plans between K through 3rd grade, and I've started on 4th and 5th grade plans. So I can't remember what I have, but I know that after you guys are the closest, obviously 3rd grade. But I know 4th grade, they start with deletion, and so does 5th grade starts with deletion, but then they go quickly into substitution. So the next thing for 3rd grade for Miss Martin and Miss Crowell, I know there's others on here in 3rd grade, but you guys will have, it'll be that substitution. So so that would be like if I said, say the word fall, and you guys would say fall. And if I say the word fall, but now instead of saying starting with, say b, what word do you make? Fall. So that's kind of where it'll get. And I'll be honest, some kids do better in substitution than they do in deletion. Okay. So that's something where we want to expose our kids, even if they haven't mastered the deletion, we're going to expose them to the next level, because certain skills, some kids kind of, for whatever reason, it comes to them more naturally than others, but we want to keep exposing them, because the more we expose them, all 3 of these areas, the deletion, substitution, and reversals, they all require kids to segment, blend, and manipulate of some sort, whether it's substitute, delete, or reverse. So it is firing a lot of processors at that, and developing deep pathways whenever they have to do any of these, whether it's reversal, deletion, or substitution. It's not, it doesn't have to be all of them for that pathway to be developed. So that's why we're going to be still focusing. So please make sure you're taking the time. It should just take about a minute or 2 to go over those words pretty quickly. And how many of you guys are kids? I know in the beginning, we didn't have a lot of kids participating. Are we getting more kids catching on to the drill?
Yes.
Who said that? I didn't see the light up. Who was that at? I'm
Miss
sorry.
Packer.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay. So we're having a little bit more participation. All right. So then, and this is also important for your case study students. If you're doing this, and just watch them when you're doing this whole group, you can watch them and see if they're able to, if they're starting to catch on or if they're not. And this goes under that phonological awareness on the Scarborough's reading rope under the word recognition, and it has phonological awareness. Then we could say, ooh, still not able to do this part. And that's where if once I send this, once I make my corrections on this slide and I send it out, you can look back and see what they should have been able to do the level ahead. And for kindergarten, I'm always apologetic because there's no place but the bottom to start, right? So y'all just have to keep working the plan and keep working the plan, right, Miss Carter? We're going to get it. We're going to get Milton. We're going to get him. He's going to be a talking fool by the end of this year. Okay, maybe not, but we're going to try. We're really going to try. All right, so we got our session wrap up. And let's see, we have, it says a student in the later alphabetic phase can match blank to blank. What are we wanting them to make the correspondence?
Letters and sounds, letters and sounds.
That's right, letters and sounds, or
Sounds.
phonemes and graphemes. Perfect. That's exactly the connection we want them to get to. So we also have, what skills is the most important for a student learning to read? Is it automatic phonemic awareness or is it accurate decoding?
A. A.
A.
So this one is, it's a little tricky because it says what skills is the most important for a student learning to read? So this is, so if we were talking about a student just like learning at first, automatic phonemic awareness would absolutely be, that's the basic skill. But when there is that, it's that accurate decoding once they're learning to read. All right, now this last question says, in second and third grades, after much practice, typical students can usually, hang on, I gotta move your little faces real quick. Typical students usually consolidate skills and achieve what?
Automaticity.
A.
Reading,
A.
yes, A is reading, fluency, and comprehension. Okay, so let's see our bridge to practice. I'm going to give you a moment to read this to yourself real quick, and then we'll talk about what we're supposed to do with our 3 students. So take just a moment and I'll stop talking.
What you need is a lawyer, enough to ever call my house.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing real quick, and we're going to talk about what do we think we can use for these writing samples? What are some things based on the directions, what can we use that we're already doing?
What are some things that we could use?
Yeah, that we're already doing.
We can use writing prompts.
You could use a writing prompt. It does not say that you have to have like paragraph form writing though, but you can.
Right.
Because I know you're third grade and I know like, I mean, you have higher expectations of what they can write.
Yes, ma'am.
My concern is, you said spelling, which is the dictation. And some of my 3 students, this is first grade, are not writing. I mean, they are on the very basic level of identifying their read words and barely throwing those in, you know. So I'm a little puzzled at what you would consider a writing sample. Could they draw a picture and maybe label based off, you know, trying to do their own inventive spelling of labeling a picture? Or
You could absolutely do that. You could still use your dictation because
Okay.
those are skills that you're teaching. So we're expecting them to come to mastery at that at some point.
Okay.
I definitely wouldn't use their dictation on the first day that you do the lesson. For first grade, you have the lesson a little bit longer. So I would try it like the second or third day to see, you know, give them practice the first day. If they're not able to write a CVC word that's in your dictation for phonics first, the very basic, what would be our basic thing that we would be looking for if they cannot do a CVC? Because I know some of my kindergarten friends, they're not going to be able to write some of those words. So what would I want them to write first?
Beginning sound.
That's right. So if I'm going to say, you know, like, I'm going to say tag. No, well, that's not a word yet. You guys had, let's see, you had D. So you might have dot. No, that still has a T. Oh, because you guys aren't even on dictation yet. Kindergarten isn't, right? So
No.
kindergarten, you guys would have to do where you're, you would be writing the first sound of a word using the D or the C. You could use an O or an A, like if you're trying to do that, or you could use, you know, when you're trying to do the letter formation, like having them, but I would say the sound instead, like do it like the auditory practice, be like, you know, write the letter that makes the ah sound, and they would have to write an A and see how that goes. Or write the letter that you might give them all the letters and see what letters they could write. And then that would be for kindergarten. For first grade, for Miss Hinton, remind me on what lesson, did you guys just finish lesson 10 or did you finish lesson 8?
I think we went back to 8 and 9, a combination of
Okay.
8 and 9.
So you won't have full dictation until lesson 11 has where you're reading, but you have dictation words, right?
And we have we did dictation up until this week. You know, we've scaled back, so they do
Right.
have exposure to it.
Right. But that would be something where, because you have plenty of letters that they can. I believe you have enough letters that they can make like the word dot. I think they can make cot and cat.
Yeah, lag, log. There's a good
Yes.
bit. At this
So
point.
any of the letters you have taught, you can use what we have on dictation, or you can practice other words that with the letters that have been taught, and have them do that. And like I said, if they can't write the word, you would do with those 3 students, you would give them like maybe 5 words. It doesn't have to be a lot. You don't need a lot for this. Maybe 3 words. It's okay. But you would say, you know, whatever they wrote, then next to it, after they've turned it in, you would write, well, this is the, you know, they wrote a C for caught, but the word was caught, you know, like, so, okay, that great that they got the beginning sound, or maybe they wrote a G and the word was caught. Be like, that's a problem, but that's why you chose them, right? So,
Right, exactly.
So those are some things that you might have to put that little dictation note to yourself on their paper afterwards, but this paper is not, it's not going home. It's going for your file for this student for your case study. And this is for your learning. I want to make that clear. The benefits will come to the students who get this too, because they're getting more practice in the focused areas that we're trying to touch. But it's really for our own professional growth and learning. We're taking 3 students because remember, you can have 20 students and none of them learn the exact same way. So that's why we have 3, because 20 is too many, but we have 3 that we can kind of see and be like, well, it really worked with these two. That's still not working with this one. What else do we need to try? That's why there is, we want to see more than one kid. Does anybody else have any questions about what writing samples we can collect? You guys are all good? Give me a clappy hand on the reactions if you're comfortable with what the assignment is for next week. Awesome. I see Miss Lentz. I see Miss
What is
Packer.
the assignment? What is the assignment?
The assignment is you're collecting writing samples for your 3 students for your case study.
Oh, okay, I'm good.
And
Okay.
it could, for kindergarten, Miss Packer, it could absolutely just be, you would say, like as an example, you could say, write the letter that makes the ah sound. And if they're able to
Okay.
write the O, great. If they write a whole different letter, then you're gonna take that up and you're gonna say, well, I gave the letter O, but they wrote the letter G, or they drew a
Okay.
picture. I mean, you never know what you might get in kindergarten sometimes. We
Okay.
get what we get and we can't what?
To fit.
That's right. We learned that in kindergarten. All right. Are you guys comfortable and you understand what we're doing?
Mhm.
All right. You guys are rocking and rolling. I'm super proud of you guys. I will be getting to come to schools. Oh, you guys want to know who gets donuts, don't you? Don't you? Okay. So I changed it up this time, which I did like all the participation. Do not get me wrong. And we will be revisiting that. But we're having our second round of letters. So anytime we have our second round of letters training, the letters trainer lets myself, the district person, Miss Cook, and the regional literacy leadership specialist, which is Ms. Cofield, they let us know what percentage of the school is has completed the unit, because we were supposed to complete unit 1 in October 9th. I know that's crazy. And I took my hard friends. That's why I asked how many. And I took those numbers out to make your percentages. Okay. Because I didn't want that to fall. If you're on a waiting list, that's not your fault. Okay. So I just want you to know. But we have Jonesboro is the big winner chicken dinner, but it's going to be donuts breakfast. You'll have 70% of your staff who has completed unit 1 online. So good job to you guys. And I will be bringing donuts on Friday morning. So it'll be Friday. Wait, no. Wait a minute. Let's think about this. Cause you have e-learning at home, right? On Friday.
Yes.
Tomorrow,
Yes.
are you at school?
Yes.
Tomorrow you're there. Tomorrow, y'all have donuts tomorrow. Okay. So I will be there at 7:50. Get your donuts. Abrams, did I come through last time? Did I come through, Abrams?
You did.
All right. So
Yes.
make sure when you get them, when you win, know that make sure you spread the word. You guys are all pretty much here, but make sure our 4th and 5th grade friends feel the love too. I should bring plenty for all of you. Okay. So thank you guys so much for everything you're doing. If you have any questions, you're free to stay on and ask. If you're good to go, you may go ahead and leave the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good
You're
evening.
welcome.
Bye.
Ms. Brockwell, did I need to have sign in or just put my name in the contact?
Let me put it back in here real quick because this one goes to the district, so I want to make sure if you can to sign in.
Okay. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you for all you guys are doing.
I didn't have any service where I was, so I had to leave from my location to log in.
Oh man, I'm so sorry. That happens to me too. I get kind of wonky service sometimes. I'm like, oh.
I was like, oh my goodness. I told my team, I said, let her know that I can't get in because I don't have any service.
Gotcha. I totally understand that. And this weather, I think I don't have bad weather yet, but I don't know. All day I've kind of had it'll say unstable internet, and I'm like, just hanging on.
Right.
Bye. You guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you. Miss Carter, I'm going to stay on until you get your